Welcome to the Velvet Door, where behind the doors we talk about all things that are worthy. And of course, I'm your host, SJ. And today I'm going to be talking about the growing problem that we're having with the racial wealth gap in America, the Black buying power, and why we are excelling but also still at the bottom of society when it comes to our economics here. And it's a topic that I feel must be brought to light, that we are here at this point in society where unfortunately it seems like our efforts are kind of going unchanged, right? Things are not really changing, but yet it seems like we make more money. We are able to buy more things. Black home ownerships are going up. More Black people are becoming more educated. As I stated, Black women are the most educated group, meaning that we are most likely to enroll in college. So why are we still having these issues? Even our high school dropout rates are lower, and still we're not really seeing any real committed, solutions. On top of that, it has been projected that by 2050, and I'm going to make sure I get the right date. The Black median wealth is going to be way below average, and maybe the lowest in the country. But I'm going to check that out right now. So let's get right into it. Just a second. I'm going to put my screen up. All right. Okay. So you guys can see here. And this article is about 3 years old. Things could have changed, could have been updated, but I'm going to use this article because this is from it's pretty much of a good trusted source, The Guardian. And it says the median wealth of Black Americans will fall to zero by 2053, one news report. So, as you can see, like I said, you would think that we are making, enough money today. As you see, a lot more Black people are becoming billionaires. We do have Black people that are becoming millionaires overnight, thanks to social media. But reports are showing that, it's kind of almost the opposite of what's happening. And I'm going to actually explain why we are making more money, but still not obtaining it. So let's get into here. It says by 2020, the median Black and Latino households stand to lose nearly 18 and 12% of the wealth they held in 2013, respectively, while median white household wealth increases by 3%. And it goes on to say, at that point, just 3 years from now, white households are projected to own 86 times more wealth than Black households and 68 times more wealth than Latino households. So, my opinion on this, I have been predicting for a while that there was going to be a great transfer of wealth, and being that now we are dealing with COVID-19, it is going to even more accelerate that. And I don't know if these things are planned. As a conspiracy theorist, right? You can say that these things are planned, these things are orchestrated in a way to disenfranchise people that are coming out of, the slums. But I'm going to also say that I do see, as I said in my previous video about Black education and how Biden nor Trump really had a plan for it, is that I'm going to predict that by the end of this pandemic, I'm going to say about 10 to 15% of Black children will drop out of school. I do believe that with virtual learning, it's going to really cause an issue with being able to stay attentive. And I do believe that it is going to harm us the most, being that we are already the most disenfranchised. I do believe that it will harm us the most. I'm already hearing from my friends, I said, that are teachers that are already talking about how kids are not even logging into classes. Sometimes you don't see it for 2 weeks at a time. And that's going to add up. That's going to add up for kids being left behind. And if they do get a chance to still come back and go to school, whatever system they make up, they're still going to be behind, and they're going to be less likely to probably go on to college. So with that being said, it's going to go into the educational level, and being that kids are going to be disadvantaged to not go ahead and carry on a higher education, then they're going to be less likely to qualify for jobs. And we're moving towards an era in time where a lot of your basic skill labor work, it's been projected that AI may be able to take over that. So if you have AI taking over these basic level jobs, then you're only going to be left with jobs that's going to require some type of training, some type of technical training, or going to your 4-year degrees and even to your master's and PhDs. If you are unable to compete in society, then you will be set aside. And we honestly don't know what does that mean to be set aside. But let's continue. It says, with the U.S. set to become a majority minority by 2044, which I already kind of felt that way. We already have so far, we have our first vice president, who is a woman, and she is Indian American. She has been advertised as being African American, but she is an Indian American. She has, her race was always Caucasian, as some Indians do put. So I do believe that these stats are coming to fruition. It says researchers say this spells major economic peril for the nation. If the racial wealth divide continues to accelerate, the economic conditions of Black and Latino households will have an increasingly adverse impact on the economy writ large, because the majority of U.S. households will no longer have enough wealth to stake their claim in the middle class. So as we already seen today, we have about 8 million people that have lost their jobs. A lot of people who are in middle class are already about two to three paychecks away from being in lower class and losing their homes and being homeless. So we are seeing actively how people are losing their property, are losing their homes, and they are getting, basically, they're going to have to start over at a lower class in society. So we're actively seeing these things play out right now, right? And just like I said, this is an article from 3 years ago, and makes you wonder, are things like the coronavirus, are these things, meant to speed things up? We don't know. But let's continue. Let's go down. It says, take home ownership, which has long been the primary means by which Americans of modest and middle class income are able to build generational wealth. And we're going to get more into that later. After the broken promise of 40 acres and a mule to newly freed slaves, virtually nothing was done to endow Black Americans with a share of the wealth generated by centuries of slave labor, the same labor that directly or indirectly helped to build most of the wealth enjoyed by white Americans. And I can agree with that. And to combat the 40 acres and a mule, I am going to say that that was something that was promised, but I don't believe that it was something that was really going to happen. I don't even think that it was logical for anyone in a society to reward their slaves with anything. And as long as I've studied history, I'm like I said, I'm not a scholar per se, not yet, but I have never seen where any society has ever given their slaves anything for their hard work and labor. I do believe that was just something to kind of keep Black people going within the system and hoping that they continue to work hard to get this imaginary 40 acres and a mule. Now, we can see that today, how politicians still promise certain things, and neighborhoods that are predominantly Black are still looking the same way. So the lies to keep the people going within the system, to not rebel, it's a long never-ending trick. But let's continue. It says, so Black Americans started off generations behind, only to encounter the redlining and racially restrictive housing covenants of the early to middle 20th century, which prevented the sale of many homes to Black Americans and isolate them together in communities that lost value as white residents fled to the suburbs. And we see this in inner cities, places like New York City, places like I'm sure in Chicago, maybe parts of Cali. I don't see too many buildings in Cali. I've always saw houses, and I could be wrong, around like Compton areas and places like that. But definitely I could speak for New York City. New York City used to be rural. A lot of people had houses, and if you didn't have a house, maybe you knew somebody else with a house that you stayed with. But as that decreased, you had more buildings, and if you had people that were fleeing, you had the Great Migration. People started coming from the south up to the north, and they were filling in to the slums of these newly built projects and apartment buildings, and even some brownstones. So a lot of these properties, they were not owned, of course, by Black people in the areas. These particular places were owned by whites and Jews. So you can see how how we started that whole trend of wanting to leave, even if we had land in the South and a house, how you wanted to give that up because of the rises of taxes and the different things that they were trying to get us off of that land, that we then came onto other lands that had apartment buildings with broken promises again. And once again, you become now a debt rent slave, So let's continue. The majority of white Americans were middle class until the 1930s or 40s. And this is very true. I look at a lot of old pictures of white Americans from the 1800s, and majority of your white Americans were very poor, very poor people. And sort of the notion of that all white people owned slaves is not true, but did some white people enable slavery, enable racism? Yes, they try to carry on these stereotypes because they felt like it gave us some type of false sense of power. And we kind of see that with rednecks, right? How rednecks kind of have that, false sense of power, but yet are, already, they don't even know that they're disenfranchised themselves, but be that as it may, right? So let's go down. So let's get to the good parts. It says the recent economic crises have widened this wealth gap, according to the report, as communities of color took the brunt of the economic hit. Black median wealth has never recovered from the 2001 recession, and we remember this was under the ruling of Bush Jr., nor Latino median wealth from the 2008 financial collapse. White median wealth, on the other hand, was left unaffected in 2002 and began rebounding just 2 years after the speculative housing bubble began to implode. Okay, so let's go down. All right, so I think this is pretty much saying everything that we need to hear right now. So you kind of see that there was a history. They painted in a little broad brush, but they did try to paint the picture that there is a history of Black people being sold promises and migrating to places that they thought were going to give them better wealth, have them a chance at rebuilding their generational wealth, and it just simply did not happen. And because of that, even though we are still picking up the pieces, we're still hitting at the median wealth of Black Americans, still falling to about zero. So you have to question, what does that even mean? Like once you fall to the median wealth of zero, where does that put you in society? Will that put you at the permanent underclass? Will that put you at a rate of, you can speculate, will that put you at a rate of being free labor, servitude? You have to commit to indentured servitude. It's a lot of things that we're gonna have to start asking these questions and not push them to the side until it's too late. So next, I'm gonna go into, let's see. Just bear with me. Okay, so next I'm going to get into Black buying power increases, but the circulation of dollar within the community remains low. And this is from the Victoria Advocate. Let's go down. Let's read about this. And I thought this article was very interesting because this kind of breaks down actual items that we tend to spend on and what other groups of people tend to spend on. So let's go here. All right, it says cell phones. Asians and Latinos also spend a good portion of their money on telecommunications, but Black households still have the edge. So, meaning we still spend a lot more money on our cell phones. Let's go down to fashion. Blacks spend more on women and girls' fashions than non-Black consumers combined, almost twice as much on footwear. So listen, now you're seeing how pretty much it's kind of stereotype that Black people like to spend their dollar, and just as much as we get it, we like to spend it. It's actually coming to fruition from this particular study, and as well as men as well. They are, it says men's gear was about the same compared to non-Blacks combined. All right, so once again, even our men are spending just as much, if not more, on unnecessary fashions versus others. All right, so it says here, it says pensions and Social Security. Blacks spend 10% of their after-tax income on pension contributions in 2007, okay? It says transportation. Black Americans lavish 17% on automobile purchases and upkeep. All right. All right, so that's what's wrong with Black culture now. They don't try to help each other, says Raj Howe, the co-owner of B&B Handbags. Black shoppers will come and look but never buy. That's an interesting statement to make, being that we have a high spending power. But I want to get into something that this person also says, and it says here that our buying power had increased from $957.3 billion in 2013 to an expected $1.1 trillion by 2015, and we're in 2020, so that number is really rising here. And it says as well as right here, it says, although this data from the State of an African American Consumer Report reflects a positive growth in Blacks' disposable income, the growing failure of Blacks to do significant business for other Blacks casts a dark shadow over the news. So that is a real key statement that this person has made. That is very true. We have a lot of people that would spend hundreds and thousands, and as we see trillions of dollars outside of our community, and they're not willing to spend it with other Black people. They would rather go buy Gucci than go buy another Black-owned designer brand. And to say that you don't know any designer brands, that means that you're not going to look for them. So that's another issue. Okay, it says money circulates 0 to 1 time within the Black community. Now this is major. All right, let's continue though. Compared to the more than 6 times it circulates in the Latino community, 9 times in the Asian community, an unlimited amount of times within the white community, according to the University of Georgia. Okay, now, like I said, this is major, okay? It only circulates 0 to 1 time. That means that as soon as it gets in our hand, it's right back out. Like immediately, as soon as we get paid, or unpaid, just fast. That's major, okay? Let's continue to scroll through this article, because this is crucial, man. All right, let's go down here. As it says right here, between 2002 and 2007, the number of Black-owned, non-farm U.S. businesses increased by 0.5% to 1.9 million. So this is good, making these businesses one of the fastest growing segments of the economy according to the U.S. Census data. So which is good. We are seeing it in boom in Black-owned businesses, and now with the help of social media, you are seeing more younger people as well taking a hold and making it their reality. But still have to see, is that money still circulating back within us? That's one of the major problems here, right? So let's get right here. Money comes, money goes. It says a community's health directly correlates to how many times money circulates or recycles within that community, Jin Watt told listeners during a recent African American Chamber membership drive. All right, let's say here, it says Blacks make more shopping trips than all other groups, but spend less money per trip, according to the State of African American Student Report. So let me break that down for you. That's just saying that, let's say you go to the dollar store, right? Now, Bob, let's say Bob is white. Bob goes to the dollar store. He's going to spend $20 in the dollar store. He's going to get 20 items, right? Now, you, Jim is black. You go to the dollar store. You spend $2 in the dollar store, and you're going to get 2 items, right? But the difference between you and Bob is that Bob is only going to come once a month. Jim is going to come at least maybe 10 or more times a month. So at this rate, let's say Jim, according to this stat, he's going to come at least maybe 30 to 40 or 50 times a month. Meaning if you times that by 2, that's 100 times. That's basically doubling the amount of money that you're spending, even though you're still only buying less items and you're spending less money per trip. So it's not how much money you're spending in the trip, it's how many trips you're taking. So that is very, very crucial, that you have a lot of Black people who are spending a lot of money, $5 here, $3 there, $4 there. And as we say, you see in your paycheck, that adds up. Spending money on food in the paycheck, that adds up after a while, right? All right, it says while Blacks in higher income brackets spend 300% more in retail groceries than any other high income household. Wow. A much higher proportion of Black consumers shop at convenience-oriented formats such as drug, dollar, convenience, gas stores. Okay, which is basically what I had. I gave you that analogy. A lot of your Black consumers that are living at a lower economic level in society, they're going to be going more to your drug, dollar stores, convenience stores, and such of that nature. But look at this. Even if a Black family is in a high income tax bracket, they're still spending 300% more. So this is not an issue of having wealth. It is an issue of circulating wealth. It's an issue of overspending. Okay? Overspending. All right, let's get into it. Let's see what else we got in this article that we can bring out. Right here, it says this 1.2 trillion that is coming into our community is going right back out. Very little of it is staying. Key info. If it flows in one pocket and not the other, we're going to be in the same position in 2020 or 2030. And as I just showed you guys in the previous article, the median Black wealth is going to decline by 2053. I just showed you that right here. So this is all prepping the game, okay? If we do not control our spending habits, it's going to get worse, okay? And you don't know what that means when you're going to get worse and when you're at the bottom. No one likes to be at the bottom because then no one respects or even cares about who's at the bottom, while everyone's excelling in society. But I'm going to get into who is excelling, how they're excelling, and why they're excelling. This is some of my opinions, all right? So let's see what else we can get out of this before we move on. So we just go right here. It says Blacks' buying power rose 166% in 17 years, from $318 billion in 1990 to $845 billion in 2007. All right. It says Black expected buying power exceeds that of Asians. Asians have of $775.1 billion, but falls below that of Hispanics, 1.3 trillion, and whites 11.8 trillion. So even though we have a high spending power, we're still of course below whites at 11.8 trillion and Hispanics at 1.3 trillion. But we still don't see any of that money. So even though that these groups are spending more money than us Black people, their money is still circulating, remember? It's still circling back within. So they're able to see a little bit of the benefits of their money that they're making versus us. We are spending more than every other household. That's a problem. All right, so let's get into the solution. Let's see what they got here. Let's see. It says, a stronger financial education of my community is also necessary. And as I said, this is crucial. We're not teaching our children to save. We're teaching them to be on social media. We're teaching them to lust after materialism, not for long-term longevity. Because even once you get wealth, you have to obtain the wealth. You cannot spend the wealth. And as Black people, because some of us come from disenfranchised backgrounds, once we get money, we're spending it. And that's a huge, huge, huge problem here, okay? Huge problem. All right, so let's get into this article. This article was recent. It's from September 25th, 2020. And it says George Floyd, I guess, is in the wake of George Floyd protests. How far have African Americans come since 1960s? All right, so let's see. Scroll down. It says in 2016, the latest data available, the average wealth of white family was almost 7 times more than a Black family in the U.S. The Black-white wealth gap was larger in 2016 than it was in 1983, when Black family wealth data was first collected. So let's talk about that point right there. Before we get even further, and I'm gonna have this graph right here so you guys can look at this too. Let's read that again. The Black-white wealth gap was larger in 2016 than it was in 1983. So that means in 1983, the playing field of Black and white families was almost about the same. Okay, and we know this is right on the brink of when we started having crack and cocaine disenfranchising and disabling Black families. Let's continue. In the 1960s, the data collected had non-whites all grouped together rather than in separate groups, okay? The disparity was at a similar level than it was at the most recent data, with white families having about 7 times more wealth on average than non-white families. The wealth gap reflects a society that has not and does not afford equality of opportunity to all its citizens, which is very true. Okay. It says also right here, so by inheritance, okay, inheritance accounts for roughly 4% of annual household income. So we're getting right into generational wealth and how that's had a great effect in these other groups being able to obtain their status in society. All right, it says, although the wealth disparity remains significant, African Americans have more economically well off since the 1960s. African Americans have become more economic. Okay, so even though we are economically making more money, we're still not closing that wealth gap. But let's continue. It says in 2019, the Black poverty rate was 18.8, about half of that in 1966. The white poverty rate has remained relatively steady, okay? There are about 8 million African Americans living in poverty, according to the latest U.S. Census Bureau data. Poverty in the U.S. is calculated by judging if the family's total income is in the family's needs. If it is, then every person in the family is considered to be in poverty. Wow. All right, so let's expand on this point right here. Let's expand on this. Because this is saying in 2019, the Black poverty rate was 18.8%, about half of that in 1966. So you're seeing that even though economically we are making more money, we are still at a lesser point than we were in the 1960s. Do you not understand how long ago the 1960s were? Think about that. It's 2020. It's 2020. Let's do the math on that. It's 2020. So that'd be roughly about 60 years ago. So Black people economically, though we make more money, we're still in a worse condition than we were 60 years ago. What are we going to do about that? And as I already said, and I read it from the previous articles, once again, that it's not the fact that the money's not coming in. If you have a high spending power, that means the money is coming in. But as we read already, it's not circulating. So once again, back to this poverty rate, back to this point. We have more Black people in poverty today by this stat than we did in 1966. Though Black people on average are making a lot more money and able to afford to buy things at a higher rate than other groups. Something's not right, something's fishy, and I feel like this is systemic, all right? This is very, very systemic. All right, so we're going to get more into this on the next couple of articles. I'm just going to show you some articles because I don't want to just come out here with my opinions and, then you say, oh, well, that's just your opinion. Where's the link? Where's the source? And I'm going to give you sources and then I'm going to give you opinions. So that's how I like to do things. All right, so I want to show this layout of median household incomes. And this is from a source of 2013 to 2015. And I even have some recent articles that's going to back this up. And we're going to talk about this new financial power that's in America and how we're going to dismantle the black-white argument, okay? Because we kind of been sold this story of that it's a black versus white thing, and yet it's really a POC thing. And we are seeing a lot of our POC people that they like to combine us with are actually excelling in this country while Black people remain at the bottom. So you can actually see here, this is the median household income in the United States by ethnic groups. And as you can see right here, all right, let me try it again. All right, so you can see right here, you have your Indian Americans at 100K per year. You have your Filipinos right underneath them, Taiwanese, Sri Lanka, Japanese, Malaysian, and so forth, as you can see. And then you have your white Americans at 59K, and then all the way down at the bottom, you see your African Americans at 35K. All right, so this is a median household income, and these are combined financial sources within the house that makes up this median income. Now, as we read in these last previous articles, that we have been focusing on the white versus Black argument, which is still valid, and I will never say it's invalid. But I want to kind of highlight a new group that's in America that will and that it potentially can take a powerful position, and that is your Asian Americans. And we would actually put Indians underneath Asian Americans. A matter of fact, your whole top path from white all the way up to Indian Americans, those are all considered Asians, okay? So you're seeing actively how white Americans on average are not holding the economic household power to our newborn power in America. And those are, once again, Indian Americans. And we're going to talk more about the Indian American, how they're able to obtain their wealth, why are they accelerating so fast in this country, and they've only been migrating here within the last, I'll say about 30 or so years. And what does that mean for the African American in America? Will this start to basically wash out our talking points of needing help, of wanting reparations for the wrongdoing African Americans? Will that wash that out by saying that we should just pull ourselves by the bootstraps, being that other groups of people can come here with $0 and still build wealth? Or will we be able to align ourselves with the Indian Americans and the Asian Americans to be able to have our issues reconciled with the United States government? Let's see, because you have to understand all the pieces of the chessboard. You just can't always look at one side of the game. If you do, the other game could then take over you. All right, so let's get into it. I already showed you guys this diagram, and I hope you take a mental note of that as I go to the next article. All right, it says Indians in America make $100,000 a year on average, so they make about 6 figures on average. They're the highest earning ethnic group in America. Indian origin Americans, they are the highest earning ethnic group. All right, let's get some fast facts about them. There are nearly 4 million people of Indian descent in America. Indians are the highest earning ethnic group in the US. They have the median income of $100K. This is almost double that of a national median. This is about 72% of Indians in America have at least a bachelor's degree. Okay, so that is going to play a key factor in why I'm going to talk about the education sector of this and how education has been able to boost immigrants that come to this country, and why our Black people in America are at a disadvantage because of our educational levels. All right, so here's another article kind of breaking down once again why are Indians basically in America, why are they so successful? This is from Psychology Today. We're going to break it down, and a lot of it has to do with their education levels. It says the fact is the success of Indian immigrants can be attributed to the 3-level selection process. The first level is education. According to the Immigration Policy Institute, 77% of Indian American adults have a college degree. 77%. In comparison, only 29% of all immigrants and 31% of native-born Americans are college graduates. So you see how low that number is? 31% of native, basically 31% of Americans that are born here on American soil have a college degree versus Indians that come here and that become citizens. 77% of them all have degrees. And I can have an opinion about that. But it says very few uneducated Indians make it to the U.S., which I was going to say. Organizational psychologists even have a name for this type of immigrants. They are called qualified immigrants, right? So I wanted to talk about that fact, is that a lot of these coaches that come to America, they are bringing their best, right? They're bringing their best. They're bringing the ones that can come, help, and boost the economy, and that can bring something to the table. Versus maybe some other coaches that are maybe Latino, they're coming at all levels of economic levels to kind of rise up and work hard. And then you have your West Indians and of course the Africans who also come here, sometimes at a lower economic level, and they also work together. They have their own set of group economics where they work to go higher. Now you combine that with the African American that's here in America, that's born and that's native. We fall under the people that all of our classes of people are here at one space, so therefore we kind of represent our poor. You don't really have the Indians that are in America representing their poor. If you want to see their poor class, then you actually go to India, then you can see their numbers. But as they come here, they're bringing their best, they're in their A game, and they're going for well-paying jobs, okay? And they're qualifying for them. A lot of them also, and I could be wrong, but I believe I am very correct. A lot of them are coming here for tech jobs. A lot of them are coming, they're being imported in as work. And even sometimes if you call and you try to get customer service, you are going to get someone that has some type of Indian accent, which you can assume the person is from India. So you are seeing a lot of the jobs, a lot of the wealth being kind of transferred out of the country and into places like India. And if they're not transferred out, you just have them being imported in, and they're filling these positions and jobs. All right, so we're going to continue on the educational route of this though. All right, so this is from Wikipedia, and this is some quick stats about the education percentages of people that have degrees. This is going by race. So I'm going to start right here. See if I can get you guys to follow with me. So I know it's a lot that's going to be on my screen. All right, so we're going to start right here. It says overall, nearly half, 49.8% of Asian Americans, they have basically a college degree. These are all going to be college 4-year degrees, as you can see right here. So you can kind of like follow along with me in what I'm saying. It's also nearly half, 49.8% of Asian Americans have one. Nearly a third, 30%, of non-Hispanic whites have one. So those are basically your white Americans. They have a college degree. 17.3% of Black people in America have a college degree, and just over a tenth, so that means 11.4, of Hispanics or Latinos have a 4-year degree. All right, so let's focus on the 17%. And as we just saw in our previous slide, our previous article, that your Indian population have about 77% of their people. And once again, you are seeing the best of the best coming from these coaches that are coming here and they're excelling and they're now becoming the new financial power. Versus here in America, we are still trying to grow and pick up the pieces from where we were disenfranchised. So because of that, we are seeing that it's a slow increase in us getting our educational levels up. We've even had articles about Black women are the most educated, and that was because of their enrollment, not the graduations, but the enrollment of them getting into more school programs, such as a 4-year or 2-year degree. But we are still seeing that we are at 17.3% when it comes to education. And why is that important? Because not everyone wants to go the educational route, right? Not everyone feel like college is fit. I know for myself, I am one who went to a technical college. I got my trade and I got my diploma for it, and I just went on about life with that. But the issue is that that means that we don't have enough Black people competing for the jobs. And a lot of Black people would say that it's racist to say these things out loud, to say that, we just don't find enough Black talent. But but by the numbers and by the reality of it, this then may be true. It may be that we have the talent, but we just don't have them qualified. And that is something that we're going to have to work on. I know that a lot of Black people rely on freelancing, as myself as well. We try to freelance and find other ways that are economically safe for us to further our careers. But by the numbers, we can see that not having a 4-year degree or even a 2-year degree will put you behind in trying to get the jobs that are necessary in society. So let's scroll down. We're going to talk about, let's clear up my stuff. All right, let's go down here right here. And I want to read this insert about the immigrants. And it says, foreign-born Asian, European, and African immigrants had a higher educational attainment in terms of having earned a 4-year college degree than their native-born counterparts. So when you look at Asian, you have to understand that Indians also fall into that category. And the reason why we're focusing on Indians is because they are the highest grossing families in America today. So as you can see right here at this chart, let's see if I can get you guys to follow along with me. Let's see. At this chart right here, you can see Asians that were born in America. You only have 48% of them that have got their college degrees. And then you come down, you see, if you're foreign born, more likely, like I said, you are probably going to bring a lot of your best to the country. Now, the only set of group of people that actually have the opposite, and you can kind of see how much of a big gap this one is, right? This is such a big gap between 16.3% to 25.4%. So this is your foreign born right here. Foreign born, that'll probably be your Africans, maybe even some West Indians. They're more likely to go get a college degree when they come here versus Black Americans who were born here. And we kind of went through some of those reasons why, but it's still a lot to do. Now, Latinos is very interesting because they're at 13.5%. And I'm going to have an opinion about that. I'm going to say that most Latinos that come here are coming from, they're trying to flee from areas where they can kind of seek refuge here in America. And once they come to America, they're able to practice their own group economics. They're able to work hard to be able to afford an education and to send their kids to school and to learn the English language. So I'm going to say that their journey is a little different, where they're actually coming from zero and then they're trying to build up into something, which you can understand why the numbers are actually flopping here. But be that as it may, you get a good idea where I'm going, why education is very important in America. And I'm not even going to say that it's important just to get a 4-year, but even just a 2-year degree. You should have some type of degree, some type of higher education. Even if you're going for trade work, should get qualified in something, because this actually helps fill in the spots for jobs that you can qualify for. All right, so I'm going to jump back onto this article. This is a new one. This is African American spending power demands that marketers show more love and support for Black culture. And I kind of have a problem with this, because I feel like we are kind of begging other groups of people to love us. And as we already know, as I read already in a previous article, where there are actually Black business owners like myself who would like to see more Black people shop with us and actually shout us out more and demand more from us. You're actually seeing the quite opposite, where actually Black people are going out their way to demand love and support from other groups of people. But, that's just where we are in society. And I want to read this little insert right here. It says more than half, 52% of African Americans find in-store shopping relaxing compared to 26% of the population. So as you see, we like to shop. We're always looking for escape, and I do feel like this is deep rooted in the idea of feeling a little bit of having less power in society and trying to fill a void where you can try to feel a little bit of, you feel like you're closing in that gap of feeling like you don't have nothing by overspending. So when you should be saving and building group economics, you're trying to use materialism to kind of fill those voids that we have as a people. That's just my opinion, but let's continue. 55% of Black consumers say they enjoy wandering the store looking for new interesting items, okay? What's this products? When shopping, African Americans are more influenced than the total population by store staff. So 34% more likely, in-store advertising 28% more likely, and merchandising as 27% more likely. So to sum that up, that's basically saying that we're very visual. We're very visual, and we're very easy to sell things too, because we're very quickly to spend our money versus other groups of people, which means that we would be the perfect consumers to come in anyone's establishment, but we wish that we were the consumers that are coming into our own establishments. All right, so let's go back here. The for us, by us trend for Black-owned business brands is profoundly impacting the African-American path to purchase consumer marketplace. Black consumers support brands that align with their lifestyles and values. It says African-Americans dominate the ethnic hair and beauty aids category, accounting for almost 90% of the overall spend. This is, I have to say that I fall into this category as a woman. I do buy a lot of hair care products because of a natural woman. I do feel like I need a lot of products to kind of keep my hair styled the way I like it to, and I do feel like we do spend a lot of money on our beauty and our hair, and sometimes I do believe that it's unnecessary. It says right here, 42% of Black adults expect brands they purchase support social causes. And that's 60% higher than the total population. So that's basically saying that we feel like our voices are not heard, and we're trying to use our money to be heard. But that's not always going to work, because just because they put a Black Lives Matter t-shirt in a store does not mean that they're actually going to be supporting your Black communities. They come in, they take their money, and they go. And that Black Lives Matter shirt that they're selling to you, they are going to make a full profit off it, and while you don't make any profit. So them showing love or showing some type of appreciation towards you through a social cause and through some merchandise or a poster doesn't necessarily translate into your economic growth. And that's something that as Black people, we really have to understand. We have to cut out of the identity politics. It never works, it never will, and we have to start holding ourselves accountable. All right, it says 35% of African American shoppers are more likely to agree when a celebrity designs a product, are more likely to buy it. So once again, we're very visual. This is why you have a lot of rappers that are selling drugs. They're selling sex to us. They're selling these different Italian brands. They're selling all these different other ethnic brands, but they're not selling you Black-owned brands, okay? And when you do have a Black-owned brand, it's then deemed as being cheap and not being worth it, and they don't want to buy it, so therefore it's just kind of showing you that once again there is a lack of self-awareness that we have amongst people as ourselves as Black people, where we don't even want to buy from each other, and if we do want to buy it, a celebrity has to co-sign it, okay? A celebrity, of all people, a celebrity. All right, it says Procter and Gamble. It says the largest advertiser in African American media, spending more than $500 million. Ooh, five of the top 20 baby care category products come from Primacy, Pampers, and Love brands. Okay, so once again, they gear a lot of this stuff towards us. African Americans outpace the general market on picket grits. Louisiana. Okay. So this is just kind of getting more into detail, the things that we buy and how we are more likely to spend once again. And I'm just showing you the difference on what we're willing to spend our money on and what other groups are willing not to do and what they spend their money on. They're willing to put their money towards where their education should be. We're more likely to take those extra trips to the store to spend more money. And that's something that we really, really, really have to work on as a people if we want to compete. So once again, if we want to compete in society, we have to put aside the idea that we have to support other groups of people and be accepted. I'm even seeing how, even in society now, we are having people celebrate the idea of having our first female VP, which is nice in its identity of itself. But at the same time, we have to stop calling this person Black, okay? This is an Indian American. She represents her Indian American people. And just because you were born in Jamaica does not mean that you are of that Black race. You can be from Jamaica and still be of another race. Understand that Jamaican is just a nationality and it's just that, okay? You're not mixed with Jamaican. You're either Black or you're white or you're Asian. So we have to look back at what we are dealing with in society. We've seen a high growing pace, and you want to hand clap them for their group economics and how they come here and they have a goal and they come and they basically conquer their market. But we have to get out the mindset of this black and white thing. I feel like this is almost somewhat of like a quote unquote MK Ultra programming where you feel like everything is black and white, and while you two are blindly fighting each other, there are other colors and other groups of people that are coming here and excelling while you two bigger down there at the bottom. That's not to say that these people that are coming here are our enemies. It's not to say that, but it is to say to pay attention to the fact around you that while you are spreading your hatred and fighting, that there are other groups of people that are here that want to actually work with the American people. We have to find our way and our tune within that. If we don't, as we said in this previous article, the median wealth of Black Americans will fall to zero by 2053. Okay, so this is already showing you a prediction of where we're going to be, and you actually can't even guess what does that mean. What does that mean for Black people when your median wealth is going to fall to zero? Does that mean that we then become a lower class? Do we then become once again the permanent underclass? Do we become, maybe in some far out conspiracy, do we become slaves again? Free labor, indentured servants. We have to start asking serious questions because we are seeing that times that we're living in is very, very shaky times. I say it and I preach it again about education. Even if you go for a tech, if you're going for any kind of trade, or if you're going to get your 4-year because you want to go into some more heavy hitting fields, you need to compete. You have to show up. That is the big thing that we have to tell our Black children, that if you don't show up, you will be shipped out and no one would care. No one would care about your tears, about where you came from and your struggle and your stories. Because as I said, immigrants that come here would tell you their stories about how they came here, and it would then overshadow yours, okay? So I'm not saying this to say that we all shouldn't be recognized for the fact that as Black people, we are coming from backgrounds that are not so stellar. But it's also just to kind of show the light that the money is there within our hands. We have the money, but just as fast as we get the money compared to every other group, we are just as likely to spend it on things that we don't need. We're more likely to follow up celebrities and live a lifestyle that we don't have. We're more likely to try to keep up with the Johnsons and the Joneses. We're more likely to want to be seen in things that we can't afford. We're more likely to want to eat out at restaurants that we shouldn't be in. We're more likely to beg for places or businesses from other cultures to love and accept us, to not profile us, instead of going to our own places of business. This is a very, very serious matter that we need to talk about more. I want to do more research on this. I'm going to come back and I just want to expand, because this is something that has been really heavy on my mind about where economics economically Black people will be in the next 50 years. How will our children benefit? And if we are breaking the curses, doesn't really seem like it. We had an article that just said we were doing better in the 1960s than we are in 2020. We were doing better in the 1960s when you had segregation and you had all these things against you than you are today, being somewhat of free but having J's and having all these high-tech phones and buying all these different things. You got all these bundles and weed, but yet we're still sitting at the bottom economically. So I want to hear you guys' opinions about this. If you have more information that you want me to share, please let me know. And if you disagree, let me know as well, so I could be able to see if I can correct myself and for my next video. So this is the Velvet Door, and beyond the door, we talk about all things that are worthy. And I'm your host, SJ, and I hope to see you on the next episode.